When are you most likely to get dumped? Did you know there are 6 times every year when you're most likely to break up your relationship? Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Cason, and this is Off the Couch. So there are actually 6 times during the year when you're most likely to get dumped. So don't be too afraid. I know those of you who are really freaky about dates and worry about things want to be very hyper vigilant and keep the relationship going during those times. And as I will explain to you, that might actually make things worse. But before we go into that, let's just go into the 6 times a year when you're most likely to get dumped. The first time is the Valentine's Day Massacre. Valentine's Day, perhaps surprisingly, we think of it as a day of love, but any relationship that's very frail, Valentine's Day starts to put pressure on the relationship. So one thing you want to think about for Valentine's Day is expect nothing, appreciate everything your partner gives you, and do whatever you can to make the day special, but don't expect anything from your partner. That way you'll only be giving into the relationship and strengthening it rather than trying to take from the relationship. Now, I'll talk about the next 5, but I wanted you to know where this information came from. It actually came from 2 British researchers, David McCandless and Byron. They printed this in the book, The Visual Miscellaneum, and that's a book of statistics that's actually fascinating in the way it's presented. But this particular study was presented in that book, and that book they analyzed Facebook status updates to see when people were most likely to break up their relationships. So let's go on to the next 5. The next is the pre-spring fling. Now, if your relationship made it through Valentine's Day, you're not over. The pressure starts to build until March, and it turns out that the first few weeks of March are actually the very worst time of all. This is when relationships are most likely to break up. People do their spring cleaning by actually getting rid of relationships during that time. So what we see is that if the relationships last through Valentine's Day, but there's still a lot of pressure on the relationship and the relationship is very fragile, that March seems to be the very sweet spot that most relationships will break up. Now, if you go through March, you're not out of the clear until April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day actually is the single day when relationships are going to be most likely to break up. Now, because this was Facebook status updates, this may be what we call a statistical anomaly, that may be because people are joking or playing April Fool's joke by changing their status update on the 1st, but we think this actually might be the end of that spring fling or that spring cleaning that's happening when people actually break up. So April Fool's Day is the next big day that relationships are most likely to break up. This is why I don't like Mondays. Now, if you make it through February, March, April, then you're going to be coasting for quite a while. Relationships are going to be in a sweet spot for a little while, but there's going to be one day during the week, every week, that's going to be more likely to break up. The same for heart attacks or job layoffs. It's actually Mondays. And it seems like people who want to break up relationships will break them up on Mondays. So that's why Monday is a good day for someone who's breaking up, because they then have the week of work to distract them, but it generally devastates the person who was broken up with, and it completely destroys that first week for them. Is summer No-Lovin'. Actually, the end of June through mid-July is another hot spot. Seems like people's shirts are coming off, they're looking good, they're starting to lean out, and they look around at other hot bodies and they start to get attracted to other people. They start to think, hey, maybe the grass is really greener over there. Maybe that body is more the body that I want with me. And so they might tend to break up their relationship because they want to go for new possibilities. But you and I know that relationship they see, the one that they don't have, the one that they think the grass is greener, is just a relationship mirage. Still, that's a time when people often will break up during that June and beginning of July sweet spot. Now, if your relationship lasted through July, you're going to hit August, September, pretty nice. Relationship breakups tend to go down during that time. as through October, but the pressure starts to build again as we build into the Christmas season. The pre-Christmas sail away is what I call the next time. When we sail into November, especially the last 2 weeks of November, as we start to head into the holiday season, relationship breakups start to spike yet again. So it's just before Thanksgiving and then into the first 2 weeks of the Christmas season, usually the first 2 weeks of December, we're going to see relationships start to really break up during that time because people want to be away from their relationship and celebrate the holidays perhaps alone. So this is another hot spot. But we actually see the very lowest relationship breakup day is actually Christmas Day. So if you make it through that pre-holiday sail away season, you're going to sail into Christmas Day, and once you've made it to Christmas Day, it seems like you're home free for a while until we hit the next big hot spot, which is Valentine's Day, and we're off to the races again. Now, these are just 6 times during the year when things get bad, and that seems to coincide with pressure building in relationships. So as we know is that when pressure builds in relationships, frail relationships tend to break. So something I like to have people do in relationships is have them think about what they can give to the relationship, put emotional money into the relationship bank, so when things get stressed, the couple can withdraw from the relationship bank and get through the tougher times. And that may be during these times like Valentine's Day or in the summertime or during March when things get really bad for most couples. But during this thing, one thing you can do is instead of thinking about what your partner can give to you, you can think about what you can give to your partner and what you can give to the relationship. By just having that question inside of your head and by thinking of what little things you can do to enhance your partner's life, you're going to start building up that account in the relationship bank, which is going to help you to weather the storms of very difficult relationships. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, and this is Off the Couch.